quick intro to this video. I have not gone live for a little while now, a few weeks actually, and the reason for that was that we finished one of our books. We were working on the most recent graphic novel, and we ended up finishing it in time. Not only in time, but like well early for the convention we were going to do, which never happened, so it was nice just getting to have a little bit of a break and stuff. And apart from that, then we had to work on a bunch of projects to have enough art and crafts and everything we needed for the convention, which that convention, the last Steel City we did at the beginning of the month, was our most financially successful convention we've ever had in our lives. Like, we could not believe how generous people were and how kind they were. And it was really cool because while at a convention you're going to get all kinds of different types of people, you're going to get people from different walks of life, anyone who was on, let's say, the opposite political side to what I am, they just left us alone. Like, they might have scoffed or made a face or something, but for the most part, they left us alone. They didn't bother us. They didn't harass us or anything. They just left us to our own devices and stuff. And there were a lot of people who were like 40 plus years old who were really awesome, actually. A lot of people who were like Gen X and Boomer were approaching the table, and when they saw things, especially like my Owl House art and stuff, they were actually being really supportive and saying things like, that show shouldn't have been canceled, like, you guys deserve to have representation. Like, these were cishet white dudes who were like 50-something years old saying this, so that kind of goes to show it doesn't really matter what walk of life you are, it doesn't matter how old you are or anything, you can be tolerant, you can be kind to people, it is not going to kill you. So yeah, that was really nice. One guy I was actually talking to for quite a while even, he actually approached me because he had a Lumity shirt on from the Enchanted Grom Fright, I think it's called, episode. And yeah, he talked to me for like a good solid hour during the convention about the fact that he thought it was really screwed up that we don't get to have something like that anymore. He was like, I can't understand why good representation bothers big studios so much, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad thing. And I was like, yeah, I definitely feel you. And I got to open up to this dude a little bit more about like my own life and stuff and my own experiences. And I was like, honestly, that show getting canceled was completely devastating. I've seen people get really upset when their favorite show is canceled because they're just going to miss the show. It's just, kind of sad because the show was important to them on like a more emotional level and stuff, but it's usually just that they're going to miss the characters, they're going to miss the adventures and stuff. I was like, that's not what this is. For me, this was more than just a show. I'm not devastated that it was canceled just because it was something I enjoyed watching. I'm devastated that the Owl House was canceled because of everything that it represented and everything I wish that little me had had growing up and everything that I wish everyone could have going forward. That show had an enormous adult audience, and there was a really good reason for it. We actually, just last night, finally wrapped up finishing up watching it because we were a little behind because of the convention and stuff. But yeah, it's hitting me pretty hard today that we are losing what I would consider both the number one most inclusive television program on the air right now, and the number one best representation of a girl-girl pairing. Too often, and I'm sure a lot of people within the LGBTQ plus community will agree with me on this, far too often there might be representation of queer people in popular media, but having representation doesn't mean that it's necessarily good representation. Generally speaking, it's either full of really harmful tropes, no matter what gender the partnership is, like making dudes into like a big joke or something. Even a good representation of that is Modern Family. While a lot of people love Cam and Mitchell, and should, and they are a fun little duo, and it's wonderful that when that show aired, they were trying to be as inclusive as they could, you still do have issues like the fact that Cam is 100% just a queer stereotype. He's a stereotype of a flamboyant gay man. Almost every scene he's in is played for laughs. Every time he has a serious emotional dilemma, it's played off as a joke, and he's rarely allowed to be a serious character. The only time he's ever serious or going through something real and raw is when Mitchell is going through something serious and real and raw. And he shouldn't just be an extension of Mitchell, the more straight-laced of the two. He should be able to have his own agency and his own feelings within the program. And with like I said, popular media, we're just not really taken seriously as a community, and it really sucks because, I mean, look at how long television and movies have been around. There's absolutely no excuse for it anymore, and it's very frustrating seeing everyone else get represented and get these beautiful storylines, knowing that sometimes it feels like you never will. And even within our own community, there's a problem with this, because if you go into small production companies that predominantly make queer media, it's almost always male-male pairings. They get to have things like funny rom-coms, like Hallmark-type rom-coms. They get to have things like adventure stories, just cute, funny stories that are just slice of life, normal shit that any other pairing would go through. But you don't really get that even within the queer community for girl-girl. Even in the queer community, you end up having issues with women and girls falling into those tired tropes and stereotypes. One of them always has to cheat on their husband or boyfriend at the time because, oh, well, she's just falling in love with a girl. It's so romantic. Cheating isn't romantic. Cheating isn't okay, no matter what. There's been so many where it's not even necessarily that the guy is a bad dude. It's just that they're like, well, we want to get her with the girl, so we're going to make her cheat on her partner. I'm like, that makes women look so bad when they fall in love with a woman. It turns it into this, like, horrible, I am, hunting the girl I want down type storyline instead of something that's truly romantic. And when you don't have that, you have the tropes of, oh, this lesbian character had something terrible happen to them. They were abused by their male partner or something, or they've been raped a bunch of times, or they end up dead or something. And the problem with these storylines being what has become normality for people are, one, things like the character being raped or abused by their past partner kind of perpetuates the stereotype that they only, went gay and decided they want to be with women because men have wronged them so much, and they're not actually gay. They're just confused because of everything they've been through, whether it's what the studio or the writers mean or not. That is how it comes off. And the problem with the mass amounts of female queer characters who end up dead by the end of a TV show or movie is that unfortunately perpetuates the stereotype that even if they had a sweet romantic relationship where they got to actually be happy throughout most of the runtime, what they're doing automatically means they have to be punished for it. They have to die because they're being punished for what they decide to do. They got to be happy temporarily. And it's just annoying. Like, our own community shouldn't be perpetuating things like that. That kind of thing is why I'm upset about Owl House. Because that show had a non-binary character, was never played as a joke. It was totally normalized. No one had a problem with saying they, them. We had a canon main who was middle-aged, knew she was still gorgeous, and was pansexual. She didn't care. She was in love with the non-binary character because of who they were. It didn't really matter what they identified as. We had the other main character of the story being a bi girl, and they didn't do that thing with the few bi characters we get where they shy away from it and she's either like only with dudes and defaults to, you know, straight, or she's only with girls and defaults to lesbian. Like, she's shown having crushes on boys and then falling in love with another girl. It's shown equally. And that was amazing. And the girl-girl pairing has nothing bad happen to them. They have the same types of relationship issues that anyone else would, like trying to get used to communication being important and trying to understand each other's boundaries and family issues and things like that. It was never anything nasty like cheating and stuff. And they're really supportive of one another. And once again, even though one of them has a mother who is just an absolutely evil human being, she doesn't dislike her daughter being with a girl because she's with a girl. She dislikes her being with her because she feels that her current partner is beneath her, you know, and like financially speaking and stuff, and like in terms of status. It has nothing to do with her being a girl. And I'm like, all right, guys, even one of the like villainous characters in this show has no problem with it. Same with even the main villain. He's a horrible person. You're supposed to be just absolutely disgusted by everything he does. Even he doesn't have a problem with it. So I'm like, what is the deal here, guys? And what's sad is, for any of you who don't know who Dana Terrace is, she created the Owl House. She's bisexual herself. She wanted to show accurate and positive representation because she too was sick of how we're all represented in the media. And she did an amazing fucking job with it. She really did. And when the show got axed, she basically admitted back in like 2020 that just during the scene that's basically the witch equivalent of prom in the show, where all that happens is two girls dance together. That's it. There's no kiss, there's no hug, there's no nothing. They dance together in order to stop a creature together. And at the end, you just see this secret note that had one of them asking the other one out to Grom. That's literally all that happened. She said back in 2020, Disney already had a huge issue just with this, which is really annoying. So that already put her on the chopping block. And after that, she had the girls starting to like each other, being cute, being flirty, and having a crush. It took quite a while for them to fully get the courage to even ask each other out. And until the end of season 2, all that happened was a cheek kiss and then calling each other cute little terms of endearment. That was it. But Disney apparently had an issue with that. At first, they tried to claim to her that the problem was that they just didn't think that the subject matter in the show was what they wanted for that lineup and the channel and stuff. But she was like, one, you already admitted back during Grom night and stuff scene that you didn't like the fact that two little girls were even dancing. So bullshit. Like, I know you have a problem with this. You all out admitted it already. And two, you are basically listening to whatever Florida says and stuff, which really sucks. I don't know why they care so much about like DeSantis and stuff, but apparently they do, because after she was told she only had the second half of season 2 left, and then 3 44-minute episodes for her season 3 to wrap up her entire story that she said she'd been working on for a long time, and she had multiple seasons of story left to tell. They sent her an email, a company-wide email, where they were talking about the Don't Say Gay bill and stuff, and that they were basically backing it. And she was like, Dana got on a video and was like almost in tears saying that she shouldn't have to deal with the moral dilemma of, do I continue paying my bills, putting food on the table for my family, living in the apartment that I'm living in, and work for a company that thinks I shouldn't exist? Or do I bail and just hope for the best? And she's right. No one should ever be made to feel that way. Nobody should feel like they're not worth living, and that's pretty much what they all out said. The other reason she and everybody who loves the show thinks it's absolute bullshit, their claimed reason why they canceled it, is because Disney has had some dark shows. They have things like Gravity Falls and Amphibia that go into some really dark issues. Like Gravity Falls has had people like bleed and die and shit before. So she was like, that lasted a lot longer than Owl House. I know that it's not just like, oh, it's for like older kids and stuff, because yeah, like there's been other stuff on there. Hell, even most of the movies of the Disney Renaissance were worse for violence and peril and stuff than the Owl House is. Like, I mean, they pretty much said, without saying it, the problem was that it was depicting queer characters in a positive light. But what they fail to understand is by destroying this show, two things are going to happen. One is, if they never let it come back again, people are just going to carry it on online. You can't kill it once it has a fandom as big as the Owl House does. We're all just going to keep making fan art. We're going to keep making comics. We're going to keep making animations. We're not going to let this die, no matter how much Disney tries to bury it. And we're going to follow whatever Dana does. If she manages to ever have her own studio, you can be damn sure we're all going to follow her there and support her in any possible way that we can, because she finally gave us this. I don't know, it's one of those things where like I'm kind of grossed out, and it's frustrating because it's not a matter of, oh, well, just don't support that company anymore. Disney owns like the entire world at this point. It's really, really hard to not support them in any way when they have a monopoly on basically everything now. They own Fox, they own Marvel, they own a lot of shit now. So it's next to impossible to not pay attention. And similarly to what people are saying about the HBO thing that recently happened, and them just kind of yeeting a whole bunch of programs and stuff, especially animated programs, a lot of people are saying things like, oh, well, this is your perfect opportunity to go and support indie artists and indie animators, which I always, and so do they, advocate for supporting indie creators in any way you can. But what people need to realize is that isn't going to solve the problem, because the people who have effectively lost their jobs doing things like the Owl House and other queer media on the Disney Channel can't just go indie now. Like, they are accustomed to a certain lifestyle. They, like Dana said, need to pay their bills and stuff and make sure that their needs are met. They can't just, disappear and hope for the best. But yeah, I don't know. I am hurting quite a bit over the fact that we finally had some decent, honestly amazing representation of two girls being in love, being supportive, having absolutely no harmful tropes whatsoever throughout their entire relationship. And a giant company that effectively owns the world said, no, absolutely not acceptable. You're disgusting. You don't deserve to exist. And a bunch of people now have to live with that knowledge in their head, pretty much. That really sucks. I'm sad that I don't get to see that positive representation anymore after those 3 44-minute episodes of season 3. I'm sad that I know that that company and a lot of people who back them think that I don't deserve to exist, and they're going to do everything they can to get rid of me and my fiance and people like us. And it just sucks a lot. And I think it's gonna eventually blow up in their face. Maybe not right now, maybe not in the super near future, but eventually it's gonna blow up in their face, because people like this, they're on their way out. Leftists are starting to slowly pick up steam and win. A lot of people want the world to be more tolerant. They want everyone to feel represented. They want everyone to feel equal. A lot of people feel that way. So they're not going to win forever. One day there's going to be so much good representation out there, I hope, that it's completely inescapable, and I can't wait for that day to come. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this live short because I'm gonna get emotional if I talk about this anymore, but it's just something that was really on my mind that I've been struggling with, and I just really hope that somehow Dana is able to move the Owl House elsewhere so we can continue to finally see ourselves represented properly.